Washington mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
Good morning, everybody. 7:07 on WMAL, where Washington comes to talk. It's Brian Wilson. Sherry Jacobus in today for Larry O'Connor, who's taking some time to be with family. Good to have you here, Sherry.
Good to be here. Thanks.
All right, we have on the line right now BLAIR LEE. You know, he's a Maryland political analyst and a Gazette columnist, an all-around good guy. And we're going to get into who won and who lost in Maryland in this last election cycle and with all of the many things that were on the ballot there. But before we get into that, I know that you are passionate to talk about the fact that Maryland is leaving the ACC for the Big Ten. Help me understand why this is important and why it's controversial to some.
Okay, let me ask you this. If a university sports program wanted to get a high school recruit to come play basketball or football at their university, and they offered the kid cash to come play, wouldn't we call that a recruiting violation?
Yes, we
morally
would.
Bankrupt? How is this different? The University of Maryland is basically leaving the ACC, where they were a charter member back in 1953, and they're going to join the Big Ten, a group with which they have nothing in common, all for cash, all for money. This is all about money. And to me, it's just another morally bankrupt move.
Well, hold on a second. Let me play devil's advocate. And again, I don't care one way or the other where they want to be. You know, bad football in the ACC and bad football in the Big Ten, it matters not to me. But let me ask you this question. If you have to shut down various sporting programs in the University of Maryland right now because you don't have the money, and by going to the Big Ten, you can then offer more opportunities to more students, why is that a bad thing?
Because this is what's called making a terrible business decision after 10 years of gross mismanagement. Here's what happened, Brian. Debbie Yao was the Maryland athletic director. Maryland was supporting 27 sports programs, which was basically unaffordable, because don't forget, at the University of Maryland, every penny of the athletic operating budget is paid for by the revenues from football and basketball. There's not one penny of taxpayer money in the operating budget for sports at Maryland. So it's all paid by football, basketball. Well, we all know that football is really in the cellar right now.
Right, yeah.
Basketball is not filling Comcast. Debbie Yao was the athletic director, and she was able to balance the budget for the athletic department for about 10 years by dipping into reserves. Okay, she was basically using up their reserve account in order to balance the budget. Then when the money ran out, she ran out for North Carolina State, where she's now the AD, leaving the current people holding the bag at Maryland. That's why they cut 7 programs, because they had fiscal mismanagement.
Yeah.
That's why we're moving to the Big Ten. It's the same thing as if in a business you're overextended, you have too much debt, and you end up having to make bad business decisions because of mismanagement.
All right. Well, I'm glad that we have that from you. I'm glad to hear all that. That is new information to me, and I appreciate that. But that's not why we had you here. We wanted to talk about what happened in the election. And Sherry has a question for you. We want to talk about winners and losers in Maryland.
Sure.
As a result of the election. But Sherry has a question.
Yeah, Blair. Many moons ago, I worked for Roscoe Bartlett as his communications director. And what happened this time?
Well, it was real simple. Martin O'Malley and the Democrats took the opportunity every 10 years when, according to law, we have to change the redistricting of the congressional districts and, of course, the State House legislative districts, and we're required by law under the one-man, one-vote principle to change the district lines based on population. However, that ends up being a blank check for the incumbents to change the district lines according to party affiliation, not just population. So, for example, in the 6th district, which is Roscoe Bartlett's district, where he has been the congressman for 20 years, they took a district that used to be 37% Democratic, 63% Republican, and they put a whole bunch of Montgomery Countyans in there and took Carroll County out, and it became 54% Democrat, 46% Republican, and that was enough to have John Delany knock off Roscoe Bartlett.
Yeah, but I remember, 20 or more years ago, the Maryland delegation in Washington was split. You had I think you had four, I think there were 8 in the delegation for the House, and you had 4 Republicans and 4 Democrats. What has caused it? I know that the state hasn't changed that much. Is it just the way they're drawing the lines?
I'll tell you exactly what happened. When Don Schaefer presided over redistricting back in the 1990s, Don Schaefer was not a blindly loyal Democrat. He basically protected a couple Republicans like Connie Morella and the Congress lady from Baltimore, who was a friend of his.
Helen
and that's
Bentley.
why you had 4 Republicans and 4 Democrats, because Schaefer he was not a handmaiden for the Democratic Party.
All right,
Yeah.
we got to get some other stuff in here. So talk about all of these ballot initiatives that were on there. And do I have it correct that the governor wants it to make it more difficult to get such initiatives on the ballots in the future, right?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, the big winner was Martin O'Malley. I mean, he delivered Maryland for Obama. Maryland gave Barack Obama the 5th highest victory margin in the entire nation, behind Hawaii, Vermont, New York, and Rhode Island. So Obama really can thank Martin O'Malley for the Democratic victory. But O'Malley also won all 4 ballot questions. He was hanging out there on that, and he delivered Maryland for same-sex marriage, the first time in America that after 32 tries that the voters ratified same-sex marriage. The DREAM Act, which was in-state college tuitions for illegal aliens, gambling expansion, and that gerrymandered map I talked about, all won on Election Day. Big feather in the cap for Martin O'Malley. Now, the most relieved politician in Maryland had to be Senate President Mike Miller, because he was all in on gambling.
Right.
Back in 2007, it was Mike Miller in the special session where the governor tried to pass a huge tax increase, who said, no, not unless we legalize slots. Now in 2012, as you may recall, we ended up at the end of the regular session in April with no budget because Mike Miller held out for gambling expansion. We had special sessions during the summer to get the budget passed and to put gambling expansion on the ballot. Miller was really hanging out there. When gambling won 52-48, Miller won big. The other big winner in this election was, I think, the power shift to move in Maryland politics from the Baltimore region to the D.C. suburbs. Look, Question 6, same-sex marriage, and Question 7, the gambling expansion, would not have passed without the Democratic votes in Montgomery and Prince George's. Best example, Question 6, same-sex marriage. It only won in the state by 93,000 votes, and in Montgomery, the victory margin was 120,000 votes. Without Montgomery, same-sex marriage would have lost in Maryland.
Isn't that something? But again, getting back to this point, the governor wants to make it more difficult for those initiatives to get on the ballot in the future?
Yeah, one of the big losers on Election Day, unfortunately, was Marylanders' right to referendum. Here's how it works.
Okay, I've got to make it quick.
Okay, we have the right to take a bill passed by the Assembly, get enough petition signatures, and put it on the next ballot. O'Malley says that's too easy. We need to restrict that right and make it more difficult.
All right, BLAIR LEE, great political analyst, apparently quite the sports enthusiast as well, giving us the lowdown on what's going on with Maryland and the ACC and the Big Ten thing. Thanks a lot. Good to have you.